right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to crack the code on a topic that is, let's be honest, the foundation for so much of your IB math syllabus, linear equations. Now, these aren't just lines on a graph. Nope. They're a language, a way to describe everything from flight paths to economic trends. Getting fluent in this language is your ticket to smashing coordinate geometry, so let's jump right in.
So you've probably seen this equation a million times, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about the story it's telling? Because every single line has one. It's a story about its unique journey, where it's headed, where it started, and how it relates to every other line out there. In this explainer, we're going to unpack that story piece by piece so you can look at any line and know exactly what's going on.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute fundamentals, the blueprint of a line. Then we'll check out the different outfits a line can wear, its algebraic forms. After that, we'll see how lines actually interact with each other, figure out where they meet, and then, the grand finale, we'll put it all together to crush a typical IB exam question.
Right, let's dive into section 1. Here's the thing. Every single straight line you will ever meet, no matter how crazy its equation looks, is really just defined by two key things. Let's break them down. First up, we've got the gradient, or slope. That's the m. Think of it like the line's personality. Is it climbing a super steep hill? That's a big positive gradient. Is it just gently rolling downhill? That's a small negative gradient. It's literally just the rise over the run, how far up or down you go for every step you take to the right. Simple as that.
And the other piece of the puzzle is the y-intercept. That's our c. So if the gradient tells you the direction the line is going, the y-intercept tells you its starting point on the map. It's that one specific point where the line cuts across the vertical y-axis. And the key thing to remember here is, at that exact point, the x value is always 0.
Okay, so we've got the basic blueprint. Now let's talk about how lines get dressed up. See, a single line can be written down in a few different algebraic ways. And trust me, the IB loves to switch between these forms just to see if you're paying attention. Getting comfortable with all of them, that's a massive advantage for you. Ah, this one. This is your absolute best friend, the slope-intercept form, y equals mx+ c. And why is it so great? Well, because it just tells you the two most important things, the gradient m and the y-intercept c. Straight up, no messy calculations needed. A huge exam tip is to get any other equation back into this form as fast as you can. It just makes life easier.
Then there's this guy, the general form. You'll see this one a ton in exam questions. It looks all neat and tidy with everything on one side, but it kind of hides the gradient and the intercept. Now yeah, there are formulas to find them, but honestly, the safest and best strategy is to just rearrange it back into our good old friend, y equals mx+ c. It's a skill that will save you again and again.
Now for all you higher-level students out there, things get even cooler. The story of a line can be told in 3D, and for that we use the vector form. The best way to think about it is like a treasure map. The equation literally says, start at point A and then walk any distance you want, that's lambda, in the direction of B. It beautifully captures the line as a dynamic path, a journey.
Okay, this table right here, this is basically your cheat sheet. Seriously, if you want, pause here and grab a screenshot. It lays it all out perfectly. Slope-intercept gives you steepness and a starting point. General form gives you these raw coefficients, and the vector form gives you a point and a direction. Being able to switch between these isn't just a neat trick, it's a superpower come exam time. All right, moving on to section 3. Lines don't just exist on their own, right? They have relationships with each other. And the entire story of that relationship, whether they're running together or crossing paths, it all comes down to their gradients.
And the rules are actually beautifully simple. If two lines are parallel, they have the exact same gradient. m1 is equal to m2. They're like train tracks. They run alongside each other forever, but they never ever meet. Now, if they're perpendicular, they meet at a perfect 90-degree angle. And their gradients, they are negative reciprocals. All that means is you flip the fraction and you change the sign. So if you multiply them together, you'll always get -1.
Okay, everyone listen up. Pay really close attention here because this is a classic IB exam trap. Let's say your gradient is -3/4. So many students will correctly flip it to -4/3 and then move on. But they forget the last crucial step. You have to flip the sign too. The negative reciprocal of a negative number is a positive one, so the correct perpendicular gradient is +4/3. Don't let that tiny mistake cost you precious marks.
You're going to start seeing this word normal pop up all over the place, especially when you hit calculus. A normal to a curve is just a fancy name for the line that's perpendicular to the tangent at that specific point. So what we're learning right now about perpendicular gradients is the exact same skill you'll need for those more advanced problems. It's the same idea, just with a different name.
So what happens when lines aren't parallel? Well, they've got to cross somewhere, right? That meeting point, the point of intersection, is a really big deal. Let's look at it from a couple of different angles.
From a graphical point of view, it's exactly what it looks like. It's just the spot, the one single coordinate, x, y, where the two lines physically cross over each other. It's the one point in the whole universe that lives on both lines. Now, algebraically, this is where the magic happens. That single point on the graph is the one and only x, y pair that makes both of their equations true at the exact same time. And that is the big idea. Finding where lines cross is exactly the same thing as solving a system of simultaneous equations.
Okay, so how do we actually find it? Here is your step-by-step game plan. First, get both of your equations into that nice y equals ... form. Then, since y equals y, you can just set the two other sides of the equation equal to each other. Bam! Now you have one equation with just x's in it. Solve for x, then plug that x value back into either of the original equations to find y. And you're done. You've got your coordinate.
Okay, this is it, the final section. Let's put everything we've talked about to the test with a real IB-style problem. This is where we see if all that theory actually works when the pressure's on.
So here's our problem, broken into 3 tidy little parts. See how this works? Each step is a building block for the next one. First, find a gradient. Second, use that gradient to find a perpendicular line. And third, find out where those two lines meet. This is a super common structure for IB exam questions.
First up, step 1. Find that gradient. The line is in general form, so our very first move has to be to get y by itself. A little bit of rearranging gets us y equals -3/4 x plus 3. And just like that, the gradient is staring us in the face. It's -3/4. Those are some easy marks right there.
On to step 2, the perpendicular line. So we need the perpendicular gradient. What's the rule again? Yep, flip the fraction, flip the sign. So -3/4 becomes +4/3. Now we have a gradient, and we have a point, p of 7, 0. So we can just plug all of that straight into our point slope formula, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, to get the equation for our new line, L2.
And now, the final move, finding the intersection. We take the equation for L1 and the equation for L2, and we simply set them equal to each other. This is the moment it all comes together. The graphical idea of two lines crossing becomes a straightforward algebra problem. You'd solve this by clearing out those fractions, getting all the x's on one side, and then solving. Once you have x, you pop it back into either equation to find y. And there you have it, the exact coordinates where these two lines meet. And to wrap things up, here's a little something to chew on for my higher-level students. In the flat, 2D world we've been talking about, lines either cross or they're parallel. That's it. But what happens when you jump into 3D? Suddenly, there's a third option. It's possible for two lines to never meet, but also not be parallel. They're called skew lines. How on earth is that possible? Well, that question is your gateway into the amazing world of 3D vectors. Definitely something to think about.